Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk. Light Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Zach coming to you from Washington, D.C. And today we discuss out of control youth ministers, a crazy breaker box, the gap year, and promoting yourself, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Yay! And there was much rejoicing. Yes, today we have Zach, Steve, and me, and we're going to be talking about a lot of fun things today.
And Zach is coming to us from his new home studio.
That's right.
Yes.
He put in a lot of money to tune his room.
Yes. I've added a comforter for your audio comfort.
Ah. Is it a thick comforter?
It sounds like you're coming from Abbey Road.
That's
What
right.
can I
Yes.
say?
It does. It made all the difference in the world. Absolutely. Anyway, welcome everyone to episode 265. And I want to start off today by just telling you guys, Lori and I went to see Alice Cooper at the Greek Theater in LA. I've been going to his shows since like the 70s, right? I went to his first tour where people were yelling at him, just being jerks. And he was so great. I mean, this guy knows how to perform. He knows how to put on an incredible show, but he really knows how to deal with audiences. And as a matter of fact, it's really funny because there's some old clips from the 60s. Actually, yeah, late 60s when he first started, and they're black and white, and they're live clips. And people were throwing things at him. They weren't ready for his type of glam, type of theatricality. But I've watched him through the years, and he became a superstar, obviously, in the 70s, continued into the 80s. And believe it or not, he's been doing it just about every single year, major tours, managed by a man named Shep Gordon, who I was thrilled to meet the other night because we were sitting in Alice's box. And that was a whole different crazy thing, that how we got involved in that. It was like center row, about 20 rows back, right next to the light board operator and the sound people. So of course it sounded great. I just want to talk a little bit about Alice because the guy is 73 years old.
Wow.
He could still sing a 2-hour show. And he sings hard. There's no processing. He sings hard and he performs hard. The other people I think of just right off the bat who have the genes to do this, like Keith Richards and of course Mick Jagger. I mean, I don't know how Mick Jagger does it, but he's in his late 70s. But getting back to Alice Cooper, this new tour has the same incredible band with a whole new show design. It was a great show. Have you guys seen him live?
I saw him years ago. Brownsville Station was opening up for him.
I haven't seen him live in concert, but I have seen him live actually on the way home from an LDI a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I sat next to him on a plane, and, he was wearing kind of like, because he's an avid golfer also, he was wearing his kind of golf outfit trying to disguise himself. But when you have the like permanently tattooed eyeliner, it's unmistakable that it's Alice Cooper. So I just let him read his magazines and didn't draw any attention to him.
Oh, so you didn't talk to him at all?
Well, we exchanged a few pleasantries, but it was a red eye, and he was going to Atlanta probably to do more golfing. And I think he clearly wanted to be left alone. And so I gave him that.
That was classy. You see, I once flew on an airplane next to Chick Corea, and and I could not keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to for that either.
He was so great. I mean, it was a short flight. We were going from Erie to Chautauqua. Actually, it was a tiny little plane that we're on together. And he was performing at Chautauqua that night. And for the entire 40-minute flight, we talked. It was just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But if
that
Alice was
sounds
sitting next
awesome.
to me, if it was a red eye, yes, I would do what you did. You did the right thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, I have to talk to him when we wake up or something. Anyway, but a thrilling thing also is meeting Shep Gordon, who is a legend in the rock and roll world. And for people who don't know Shep's story, he's been Alice's manager, I don't know, since like 1970 or something like that. And he created this type of rock and roll theatrics, him and Alice. They found a way of doing it and putting together a big show and doing it with class. And that's what Shep does. There's this great Mike Myers documentary about Shep Gordon, and it's called Supermensch. So if anybody wants to watch a very good documentary about how rock and roll managers became really big and how good rock and roll managers work, go ahead and watch this. It's a great story about a great life. You saw that documentary, right, Zach?
Yeah, I did. It was really interesting. I mean, he now is probably one of the last of the great 60s and 70s legendary outsized character kind of rock and roll managers that's still around and actively working. But the other thing that I learned from that documentary is that he's also sort of the creator of the concept of the celebrity chef.
Yeah, which is a great
something
story
that we kind of take for granted now. That was his idea one day. He loved food and cooking, and he was like, this shouldn't just be Julia Child and
Chef Boyardee.
yeah. Right. So he came up with that idea, and he was like, I can't remember if it was Emeril Lagasse or there was some chef. He's like, I'm going to make you a TV star. And he did.
It's pretty amazing. But let's get to the lighting, okay? Because the lighting was great. And I posted a couple of amateur clips that are already up on YouTube on our Light Talk Facebook page. The lighting designer is Chris Lizzle, and Chris Stuba is the lighting director. I believe that Chris was the one who was actually running the show the other night. And Lori was freaking out. I mean, she was like right next to it, and she got so fascinated with the lighting because she knows very little about lighting because she's in the acting voiceover world. But she was watching this, and I was explaining to her what he was doing because, a lot of it's pre-programmed, of course. But as everyone knows in a rock show, you have to hit the beats. You have to make sure everything is timed out correctly. And it was an art what this guy was doing. And I believe that was Chris doing that. He was truly a master. It was great. I have only one more thing. We're starting a competition, and today is Alice's Quote of the Week competition. There is one embedded Alice Cooper quote in this episode. And if you can identify it, post a quote on our Facebook group page, and you will win a dishwasher-safe Light Talk shot glass.
Whoa.
I mean, come on. The shot glasses are the thing. So we're going to give away a shot glass. So if you catch the quote, please post it on the Facebook group page, and the first one who gets it wins that shot glass.
So now I have to make sure not to accidentally add any extra quotes.
Well, if there's an extra quote, then we'll give away 2 shot glasses, okay? Or 3 or 4, who knows? But again, there is a quote that you will hear today. You may have heard it already, but you probably haven't. So that's a hint. Let's get started. Steve has our first question.
Yes, it comes from Ellen in Chicago. And she writes, the youth minister at church wants to set up a music ministry. His performance space has a 12-foot ceiling. Can we add moving lights to the room? Well, sure. I mean, you can build a swimming pool in there too.
Put them on the floor.
12 foot is kind of getting a little tight in there. You don't want the lights to look like they're about to bash your minister in the head while he's up there playing the guitar and leading the congregation in a song. You also want lights that are going to quickly spread. So you don't want just a bunch of little dots on the floor. So I'm going to not worry about budget, not going to worry about manufacturer. I'm going to suggest that you also might look at moving mirror fixtures. They'll be a lot less distracting than a light spinning around up there. Not everything has to be a big light. Go talk to the major players in the industry. Keep budget in mind, keep weight in mind, keep power in mind. But people are going to start throwing their shoes at their computers right now. You might also want to have a talk with the guys at American DJ, because they're kind of, that's a niche they've kind of got sewn up, these very small, tight little rooms. You do need to be careful about the power in the room. You don't want to be running cables all over the place trying to get to wall outlets. So that means you may need to get an electrician in there and dedicate some power in one location to where you're going to send these lights to. And also, you're going to have to start thinking not only how you're going to control these lights, but who is going to do the programming and who is going to do the artistic work with the minister to put kind of a light show together for his ministry. Something that I would consider that room and your lighting system to be kind of a three-legged stool. 12 feet's not much room. So I would start thinking about maybe you can get a lot of bang out of your buck from LED strip lights. All of a sudden, you can put some on the floor. They can be really interesting footlights. They can be hung vertically on either side of the performance area. That could be really nice. What I'm trying to do is get you some coverage and some color control up there so that your moving lights don't have to do the heavy lifting of all the visibility. And realistically speaking, you're probably going to want your moving lights or your mirrors from the back and sides anyhow, so that you can have some kind of aerial effects or eye candy. So give them something like an LED strip or a flat panel to help support the work they're trying to do. And I would also, maybe Zach wants to weigh in, I would also look at some video panels in there. I would look at what projection can do, even if it's just big rectangles of red or blue or green light being projected, and then imagery being projected. I'm saying go all in. If you're going to do this, you're in Chicago, your music minister wants to do it, go all in. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. I think that one of the things that sort of piqued my interest in this question too is when we're talking about a 12-foot ceiling, is what are the rest of the dimensions of the room? How big is the audience or congregation that's in this room? And I thought your strip light advice was really, really good and on point, because moving lights take up a lot of room, and you might be losing seats because you need to fit those kinds of things in there when you can achieve other engaging effects that you might get from a moving light with something that's more compact and uses less power. So I think that really, as you said, like exploring other ways to get color and fun and imagery and motion into that room without the moving light might be a good investigation. So I definitely thought that those were some really good suggestions.
Yeah, I agree. And I would go one step further. I'm actually doing a church consult now. It's a very large church actually in the Long Beach area. And we were talking about video, and Steve mentioned video panels. But if you can't afford LED panels, you can do it with video projectors. There are a lot of really good affordable video projectors out there right now, and you can project them on screens, you can project them on scenery, on walls, on things like that. So there are ways of doing video, and video adds so much to a worship service. It really does. And I'm not just talking about IMAG, which is when you have a projection of the person who's actually speaking, whether it be minister or whatever. I'm talking also about background and content, that supports the worship experience. And a lot of these churches are also live streaming. This particular church live streams all their stuff. So they have a video set up already. So why not? And I told him, I said, why not just buy 3 screens and have them come down, and you could just do a feed of how you're streaming this through video, just right also for the experience of the other 800 worshipers that are in the congregation.
The other thing about adding video is that it basically instantly turns it into a multi-purpose room.
Yes.
That not only can you now use this as a way to enhance your live performances, but if they want to show some kind of movie or instructional video or, documentary, whatever, that now you have a room where you're capable of doing other things besides just this performance space.
You know, and in this particular church, they already have a setup with with remote control cameras. They have like 5 cameras that are in permanent position that are all controlled, zoom, pan, tilt, and there's, you know, a director doing that. So why not do that? I think that's a great suggestion, Zach.
I actually said at the beginning of the pandemic, when people were asking me about like, how do we do this Zoom thing? How do we keep people engaged? I said, I think that, you know, synagogues and churches are going to figure this stuff out really quickly because that's what they need to stay connected to their communities. And a lot of churches and synagogues and other houses of worship did amazing jobs putting together live streaming that was like broadcast quality almost overnight. So they, you know, it's amazing. They all have this infrastructure already, and they didn't realize we can use it inside our house of worship, not just out on the internet.
Right, exactly. They're set up now. That's really great.
Well, you guys bring up a good point that Ellen needs to maybe get the sales rep from these companies in there. And if they are doing something with a camera, they need to look at the lights on camera so that they're not, the frequency of the light is not flickering on camera.
Yeah, it's also interesting that Ellen is talking about this church. They want to set up a music ministry program. That is really interesting because I've worked with a lot of music ministers and I've seen programs like that all over the country. And that is where it's happening. I mean, there are some churches out there that it's like a rock show. When you go see, you know, I mean, they have better lighting equipment than most rock shows, and they're usually Baptist churches. I don't know why the Baptists have all this money, but they seem to.
Well, David, if you cast your mind back 20, 25 years ago, the giant Methodist church that sits on the border of the campus of SMU has a music ministry there, and that's where the guys at VL taught my students how to program a virtuoso, was in the music ministry room. They had a virtuoso there, and they had probably 24 moving lights.
Wow. But what did they think of Alice Cooper, you think?
Getting back to Alice now, his father was a minister.
Oh, see, it all goes back to Alice. So you can ask him.
Yeah, ask Alice. Wait, isn't that a song?
That's Jefferson Airplane.
Oh, right. That's Jefferson
So that quote does not count. That is a Jefferson
Airplane
quote.
It's not that's an airplane quote. Exactly. Okay, so the Shaw family writes, wait a second. Now we're getting questions from families. Isn't
the entire family had a question.
This is a first for Light Talk. And the entire Shaw family asks, or they write, "Hello, Lumen Brothers. Our son is thinking a lot about going to college, most likely on the West Coast. Any advice on how to approach the selection process? Is taking a gap year to work in the industry before beginning college a reasonable idea? One career idea is working for Disney." Okay. I think you're asking the right Lumen brother right now because I'm on the West Coast. I deal a lot with West Coast universities, and I deal a lot with Disney. So sending him to the West Coast, yeah, that's a really good move, I think. If he wants to work for Disney, I think that you really need to be in the vicinity of what we call the entertainment capital of the United States, which is Los Angeles. And there are a lot of great schools here. Now, he's going into, I believe, undergraduate school. So I believe, and again, listeners of this program know that all three of us believe in a good liberal arts education. And there are many here on the West Coast. Choose a university that will also offer your son experience in all the arts, not only theater. And the reason why I say that is because people start exploring in a good liberal arts university, and you want to be able to have them have the opportunities to try different artwork. Now, I went to college as a music major and discovered theater. And I'll never forget it. I just was walking from the music building and I saw this really interesting building and I opened the door and I walked right in on a rehearsal. And I got involved in theater that way. Without that exposure to theater, who knows where I would be today? Probably co-hosting Music Talk. No, I don't think. Anyway.
The Audio Brothers.
So when you're right, exactly. The Jazz Brothers. The Jazz Brothers.
There you go.
Music Talk with the Jazz Brothers. Anyway, what do you guys think?
I think you can't go wrong with that advice. A liberal arts education is a really great idea. I have a bit of information about the gap year and about Disney. So when I taught at LSU, there was a young lady there who was a freshman, and she had decided that Disney was her career. And she went out there one summer, and they said, "What are you doing in California? You should be applying for an internship or a job at Disney in Florida." And she looked at them and said, "I want to work for the real Disney." And they hired her. And so her first summer at Disney, she was an advertising person. At her first summer at Disney, she was in the parking lot waving a flag at cars. And then her sophomore year rolls around, and she's back at Disney, and now she's in an air-conditioned booth, I guess selling parking tickets for the parking lot. So now her junior year rolls around, and she spent 2 years in hell, and they know she's interested in advertisement and management. They move her into an internship in the advertising department. So we're seeing some promotion from within. So she goes back her fourth year, and now she's a little bit higher up in the food chain. But 4 years later, so 4 summers as an intern, and then 4 years later at Disney as being an adult, she is the go-to person, head mucky muck for the Mighty Ducks. And she handles everything for them worldwide. So I think a gap year, and if you want to work is all right. I think if you want to work at Disney, man, I'd go knock on their door. Even if you just want to take a gap summer, I would go and see them. And I wouldn't be ashamed about saying what you want to do. This is you're my dream job, and this is what I want to do, and I'm here to start at the bottom, and I'd like to work here while I'm in college. So I think you've got to be nice but aggressive, and don't be ashamed to say, I want to be what? Maybe an Imagineer. And maybe you start haunting some of the Imagineers and see what you can do about assisting them. Most of these people, we've had a couple on the show, and they're just the nicest people in the world, and they love to talk about their work.
There are universities on the West Coast in the LA area that have formal relationships with Disney. So yes, so that would be a really good starting point.
How would the Shaw family find out what those universities are?
They could call me or write me, and I will tell them privately who they are.
All right. There you go.
But there are several. It's not just one.
Right. I mean, there's one in particular that Walt left a substantial amount of money to.
Yes, there is. There is one, but it's a very expensive one. But if they have the means, they could certainly go there.
Sure. And there are also other programs all around the country that are popping up now that are themed entertainment design programs. SCAD actually has a program that just started now in that themed entertainment design. I mean, I'm guessing that the Shaw family's child is probably interested in lighting.
Well, it's light talk.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that Disney does have a lot of internship programs in the lighting department specifically, too. So a good thing to do would be to whip out your friend Google and look up Disney lighting internships. And I think you'll find that at both parks in America, as well as all over the world, that they have a lot of internships. I know that when they were building the park in Shanghai, they were coming to events like USITT, and if you were a lighting student that could speak a little Mandarin, you were going to get a job, just like that. So I think that doing some research to find out what programs there are, feeder schools like David mentioned, all those things I think are really good ways to look into getting your feet wet with Disney. You know, Florida in particular has a college program that may not necessarily put you in the design world, but they have a specific college program where you can do internships that are related to what you're studying. I know, like, I have a cousin who is a chef, and she worked as a line cook at a restaurant at Disney for her college internship program. I think in terms of going to college on the West Coast, that's a great thing. It's funny what you guys were talking about with the liberal arts background, that this is a discussion we have in my house a lot because I didn't have that in my college education. I went to the Berklee College of Music, and it's a conservatory-like atmosphere where you're specifically studying your craft, and even the sort of liberal arts courses that you take are still much more connected to the craft of music there than they would be at, say, Boston University or another liberal arts college with an arts program in Boston. But that for my children, very much want them to have access to those other things. So it's like, if you decide this is what I want to be when I grow up and I want to focus on this and take as many classes as I can in this, that's great. But I do think it's good if college is a time for you to explore and learn about who you are as a person. And so it's good to at least be in a place where you can have access to all those other things that help make us well-rounded individuals. Even if you decide, okay, I'm really going to focus on theater or lighting or whatever that specific thing is, we draw our influences for our art from all over the world and from all different subjects. And so being able to take a course in like a foreign language or, some kind of politics or something like that, it's just really great to have access to that, because those 4 years of your life are the only time you're going to be able to really do that. So take advantage. Troy in New Orleans says, can you explain the media server and what I should look for in buying one?
And how much do you tip them? That's my question.
Oh, I was going to say you might be looking for a substantial bank loan for some of these media servers.
That's true.
Yeah, so the idea is, you say you're adding the element of projections or video to a show. There's a machine that you put your content on, and that machine then serves up the content. So the machine that is known as the media server, it helps you to organize what your content is and how it's going to be displayed. And some of them are more sophisticated than others, where you might have options limited to how long will that image be up on the wall, how long is the fade up and the fade down. There are other ones that have all kinds of built-in effects, like you want to make it like look like it's on fire, or add water ripples, or change the colors of things. So I think that first and foremost, when you're making this kind of investment, you want to look at how often are you going to be using this device, and what kind of content are you going to be using it for. So, if you're going to use it in a music ministry program, you might need a different thing than if you're going to be doing it for a Lort A theater or an opera house, for instance. The most common ones that you're going to run across in most professional theater are going to range from something called QLab, which is a pretty affordable Mac-only media server that also is known, originally was known as a sort of like the sound version of a media server, but then they added media server functionality to it. And then you're going to see things like Watch Out, Disguise is another, and the Hypnotizer is the third. There's some new ones like Pixera, which is a hot newcomer in the field. And a lot of these machines, if you're bringing in shows that have already been designed, they're probably going to be on one of these machines. For instance, like Dallas Opera, they own a Watch Out system. I've worked with Driscoll, our friend Driscoll, at the Dallas Opera, and when we've brought things there, they have Watch Out because a lot of the operas that they bring in were already designed somewhere else on Watch Out. So it made sense for them to own that. A lot of places now will use Disguise, which has all kinds of fun tools built in for projection mapping. So if projection mapping is something that you're interested in, you might want to consider something like Disguise. The Hypnotizer works really well in concert with like rock and roll lighting, no pun intended. So if you're someone who's familiar with a Grand MA as a programming tool. You might want to look at something like the Hypnotizer, which can be programmed really easily and nicely from Grand MA, as opposed to the other machines which have their own programming interface built in. And even if you're a Mac versus PC person, if you're a Mac person, you're going to want to look at things like QLab or Isadora. There's something called Resolume, which is like primarily known as a VJ software, but you can use it for theater as well. So really, it's thinking about what am I going to be doing most with this media server and how often am I going to be using it too? Because if you're going to use it once a year, it may not make sense to have a investment at all. It might be cheaper to rent a media server when you need it than it would be to actually buy one.
Wow. I can't follow up with anything. I mean, I was going to say, okay, I hope he talks about he mentions a few good examples of low budget, ones and higher budget ones. You did it. You did everything. It was amazing.
There you go.
I have nothing more to say. Steve, do you have anything?
No, I'm thinking we're lucky. We just have Licos and Fresnels. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, media servers can be very complex and they can be very simple, and everyone has their favorite, right?
I mean, I felt
exactly.
like you were explaining, there was that famous cartoon in which someone walks into a game store and looks at a chessboard, and the fellow says, "That's right, you just pick it up and move it." I mean, media servers, my goodness, they are complex and layered.
Yeah, they can be.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by...
It's a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s. Not so many years ago, the console world was turned upside down with the introduction of the Grandma. I remember the buzz at LDI. The promises made that day in November have been kept and expanded upon. The Grand MA is the choice of many of the top programmers around the world. It has become the bedrock of the concert, TV, and event world. It is even the choice of many high school students. Just ask anyone born after 2000. With an almost infinite way to program, a 900-page manual, and thousands of hours of online content, the Grandma is the marvel of the avocado toast-eating next generation of super designer. But what about you, my friend? That's right. I'm talking to you, Mr. Senior Free Coffee Pancake House Free Breakfast Buffet, can't use your TV remote control programming disaster. In other words, people like me and David. The men and women who just keep pushing buttons while all the time knowing no good can come from that. The it doesn't work crowd who don't realize they're working in blind or solo mode. Knocking on the door of Social Security, the men and women who secretly long for the saltwater dimmer days. I understand. You don't want to take the time to learn the MA, but you also don't want to be left behind. Well, fret no more, because now the good men and women of MA Lighting have your back. Introducing the Grandpa. The Grand PA has a small footprint that will easily fit into any nursing home rec room. And best of all, it comes with the familiar CRT monitor, just like your Atari back in 1972. Press Control and type "Make Me Happy," and bingo, the screen of the console defaults to Pong. Perfect for those long, boring texts. The only console in the market that can be run from your jitterbug and uses all those floppy disks you have stored in your closet. And best of all, it only has one programming button located on the center of the console. Bright red, 4 inches around, and labeled "Push Me." That's right, the Grandpa. Not as smart or fast as Grandma, but will find a place in your heart. Sync it up to your main console and watch Grandma tell Grandpa what to do. Just like Home for the Holidays. Grandpa, shipping now for the Madison dance-off season. This has been a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s.
I'm ordering one right now.
Yeah.
And I have to say, full disclosure, tell Grandpa what to do. That whole line about Grandma and Grandpa, I stole that from Zach. He said that, 2 or 3 months ago, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was laughing so hard.
Yes, I will be buying that with my Diners Club credit card.
Oh, there you
Diners
go.
Club. Do they still have Diners Club?
No.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
I think Diners Club is the preferred
Diners
credit card
Club.
of one of those Stan countries. I'm not sure.
Oh, Stan's country or Afghanistan or something like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Stan, like in Florida.
Stan's country. Stan's country's in the swamp of Florida.
Right. I think they're trying to secede anyway.
Yes, Florida's
Yeah.
going to secede along with Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. I hope not
Yes.
Texas, but who knows? We'll see.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Oh, those ducks, they don't stop. They quacking and quacking and quacking and quacking. Yes, that means it's time once again for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about self-promoting. Self-promoting? Yeah, how do we
Yes.
promote ourselves? Because we have to. But a big part is websites. And I guess that was where the question came up. Do we really need a website? So, what do you guys think? Self-promoting. How do you self-promote, or do you still self-promote?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with self-promoting.
No, I do it all the time. That's why we do the show.
No one's going to find you in the yellow pages.
Well, I think what's interesting about it for websites in particular, like my website, which is already getting a little long in the tooth, was designed by somebody who builds websites for a living. And I apparently wanted to break all the rules of what they called best practice for my website because I was trying to explain how people look for you and what they need to see when they look at a theatrical designer's website. And it obviously is not the same as when they need to go like buy a couch. They're looking for something very different. And so I was telling them I don't need to be found in these kinds of searches or that kinds of searches, but within like the first 30 seconds of looking at my website, they need to already be able to tell like, okay, this guy is a real designer and here's some pictures of the highest profile things that I have available. Because a lot of these producers and directors are making decisions very quickly and they don't want to have to dig into your website to find out who you are and what you're about. So being able to kind of hook them in as quick as you can is really important. And even though that goes against what like the business world, I'm doing finger air quotes there, might say about a business website, I think that really for us, we're dealing with people with short attention spans that might be looking on their phone at best. So we have to make sure that they see your most colorful picture right away. And I think it's good to have a website and it's important and that you don't, it's surprisingly simple. You don't really have to sweat it because you just need to have a whole bunch of pictures that are clearly labeled so people understand what they are and what your contribution to that picture was. And then, how to get in touch with you. If it's hard to figure out how to get in touch with you, then it doesn't matter about the rest of your website.
On the other end of that, you're in that rarefied air now where you might be on a short list of 5 or 6 people. So the producer, I absolutely agree with you. The producer just hits your site fast and looks for that big money shot and compares that to the other 4 projection designers they're looking at. The thing I find, because I still do recruitment, my wagging the finger at IRTA, I can't tell you how many websites I get from IRTA students that are the free version of the website that kind of semi-works on their computer, but doesn't work on mine. And then I sound like a grumpy old man. I just looked at maybe 30 websites this last go around, and I would say at least 12 of them did not have contact information on their website. There was no contact information on their resume. There was no way to email them. There was no way to get in touch with them.
Oh,
so I don't understand how that basic mistake is made.
Wow.
Yeah, I know people sweat all the time about like, if I have a Gmail account, is that going to reflect badly if it's not like at myname.com or something like that? But I think that what you've just said is if there's no way to contact you, it doesn't matter. So Gmail is fine.
You know, I really wanted to talk to one person, and I was like putting their name in Google search, and I was sticking lighting designer, and occasionally I would see something like, a program, but still I could not find them. There was just no way to find them.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging because I think that also as designers, we often feel that any kind of leave behind, whether it's a website or a business card or swag, that like it needs to sort of reflect our design sensibility and personality. And I know that a lot of scenic designers especially struggle with having a business card because they're always, these are all those scenic designers that you see wearing black jeans and black t-shirts every single day. They don't know what to put on their business card because they can't ever settle upon a design. They're just afraid you're going to judge the design of the business card. And the reality is, when I go to LDI 4 days later, I'm looking at the business cards and I'm trying to remember who those people were and make the connection that sometimes the business card that has a little flair is easier to connect to the person than the person who just has white card with black text or something like that.
Well, you're also talking about a business card and a website is a living, breathing thing. So
Right.
Monday, you might be very happy with your business card and your website. That doesn't mean Wednesday, you're not going to want to modify it. So I think
Sure.
that's the thing too, is as you evolve as a business person, then your website and your business card evolve. And maybe one day it's super artsy and the next day it looks like you're working for IBM. But if the information is there and you're happy with it and you're getting results, then you're on to something.
Yeah.
Right.
But, people will not be visiting your website if they don't know who you are. And you know what I mean? I mean, they have to have a reason to visit. So how do you get that person interested in you? And, there are many ways that you can actually network yourself. Trying to meet directors, for instance, trying to meet other theater artists. And I know that if you're in a large metropolitan area, one of the ways is to find out where people hang out and then go there. Right, Zach? I know there's a whole New York
Absolutely.
scene, and there's a whole
Yeah,
LA
in New York,
scene.
there's the lighting designer bar.
That's right.
It's called Deacon Brody's. I'll see you there.
Right,
Or
exactly.
like the Light Talk Lounge at LDI.
Yes, the Light Talk Lounge at LDI, which we're going to do this year. We're going to convince Ellen somehow to get us a space for $200.
Right.
I don't know what it's
We
going
have
to
the
buy
shot
us.
glasses already.
Yeah,
It
we
needs
got
to
the
be
shot
right
glass.
next to the Circle Bar. We can't be next to the bathroom.
Yes, we're going to be like over, where no one can find us. But we got to do that. But no, seriously, you got to find out where these bars are, all right? And also, there are hangouts online, Zoom hangouts. It was big during the pandemic, and where people would meet. And there's no reason why you can't just go and crash one of them. Like you're crashing like the bar in New York or in LA or in Seattle or in Dallas. You're just going to be there and you're going to start meeting people. And that's the way to do it. It really is, because then people will say, oh, you give them your business card, and they may look at your website and they'll look at your photos, I guess, and say, this person was interesting. Maybe we can use them.
I'll give you an example. So Driscoll and I did a show in New York. It feels like 100 years ago, but I think it was last month. And there was a guy in town who was an electrician Driscoll had worked with in Atlanta, and he was in New York, and he came to the bar with us. Mm-hmm. And then a bunch of us went to another bar and we said, come with us. And by the end of the night, that guy had like 3 other gigs.
Yeah. And he had friends, more friends.
Yeah.
too.
He had friends and they were like, we're coming to Atlanta. You're going to be our electrician. Boom.
Yeah. And that's how you do it. And it's going back to that story that we've always been telling for the past 5+ years, is that you have to find out who's coming into your community and you got to connect with them and say, hey, can I shadow you? Can we just meet? That's promoting. It's not, that's just the way it's done in the business. And most people will say, yeah, I come to the, I'm doing load-in, or I'm focusing on Thursday. I'll put your name at the stage door. And then all of a sudden you're like going out to the bar with them. And that's how you meet people.
One of my friends years ago got a Broadway gig as an assistant. And the first thing he did was he joined the Broadway League softball. team.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That's a good one.
And man, I mean, he was talented. There's no doubt about that. But everything changed because he now is meeting everybody and they have kind of a common interest. And, you know, all of a sudden, things really changed for him. He made a lot of new friends and life got good fast.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm also very involved in the TEA, which is the Themed Entertainment Organization. They have a lot of mixers that they host.
Yep.
And these mixers, while they're specifically for TEA members, a non-TEA member who's interested is always welcome to come and meet people and learn more about the organization. And it's another great way to meet people and learn more about, you know, the craft and the different things that are out there for you as a potential member of the organization or designer or whatever your discipline of choice is. So looking for those things too.
Another good one is the IESNA,
Yes.
which is the Illuminating. Okay, help me out, Zach. It's the Illuminating Society of North America, Engineering
Yes.
of North America, something like that.
Yes.
Anyway, they have regular get-togethers that are open to people, especially students. And I know a lot of students listen to us. Maybe the worst mistake you ever make in your life, but you do listen to us. And we're giving you some good advice right now is that find out, you know, check out the local IES chapter in your community and find out. And they welcome people because they're recruiting people. They're recruiting people, you know, to work in their studios as architectural lighting designers. And I did that once, and all of a sudden I started getting gigs. It was amazing. So go ahead. You know, these are all really good suggestions. So you need a good website, you need great business cards, but you actually need to get out there before any of that will work.
Right. Your business card and your website is worthless if you have nobody to show it to.
Right. Steve has our last question of the day.
It comes from Daniel in the Rocky Mountains. And Daniel writes, when I turn on my dimmers, after about 30 seconds, the breaker box on the wall where they are drawing power begins to make a lot of noise.
Uh-oh.
It's really loud. It's like standing in front of a car that's about 20 feet away from you honking its horn. I think the box is really old. Should we relocate the breakers to a closet with a door? Daniel,
Is that a fire hazard?
Daniel, you're scaring me, brother. Okay, so there's a couple things here to consider. I don't think you can put a breaker box in a closet. I think that's kind of against code. But man, I mean, it's Saturday morning. Call up an electrician right now and pay them overtime. What do you mean your breaker box sounds like a car coming at you with a horn on? This is horrible. Sounds really dangerous. So I have no idea why your breaker box is doing that, but it definitely should not be doing that. So run, call the fire department, get everybody in the building right now. Something major is wrong.
It sounds like you got a problem with your box.
Yeah, electricity is not something you ignore.
No.
I mean, that is just, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, this sounds really bad.
I wish that he had called in and was trying to imitate the sound.
Yeah.
So we could have enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah. You know, they do that on Car Talk. Well, they used to do it on Car Talk. Sounds like a zzz, or is it a boom?
Yeah, we could diagnose it based on the sound.
Right. Or did it sound like this? Oh, I miss those guys. But I still listen to them. I mean, you can still hear them on the radio. They have all their, they had like 1,100 or 1,200 episodes.
Yeah.
It's really fantastic. The rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, the law firm of Flecht, Flock, Flare, and Glare and their paralegal Snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers. coming to you from Long Beach, Washington, D.C., and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week where we once again welcome you to our little casserole of nonsense and explore the crazy shenanigans in our industry.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Light Talk.